Hi everyone, welcome back for another math video lesson. This week our objective is I can measure and compare objects. But before we can start comparing objects by their measurable attributes, we have to know the 4 different ways that we can measure an object. So let's get started. There are 4 different ways we can measure an object. We can measure an object by its length. We can measure an object by its height. We can measure an object by its capacity, and we can measure an object by its weight. So let's learn about the different ways to measure and compare objects. When we are measuring an object's length, that means we are measuring from one end of the object to the other end of the object. For example, I really love to sew, and sometimes I need a strip of fabric that's long. So if I want to find the length of this strip of fabric, I'm going to measure it from this end to this end, and I'll know how long this fabric is. When we want to compare the length of 2 objects, we use words like longer and shorter. So I have this strip of fabric, and I also have this strip of fabric. And I want to know which one is longer and which one is shorter. The one that is longer means that it's going to have a longer length from end to end. So let's see which strip of fabric is the longest. To compare the length of these 2 pieces of fabric, first we have to line up the ends. And then we see which one is longer and which one is shorter. Well, this one, you can see that from end to end, it goes on farther than the one on the bottom. It just keeps on going. So the top piece of fabric is longer than the bottom piece of fabric. And this bottom piece of fabric is shorter because it doesn't go as long from end to end as the top one. And that is how you can measure and compare length. When we want to measure an object's height, we measure from top to bottom or from bottom to top. For example, if I wanted to know how tall I was, what my height is, I would stand up and measure from the top of my head to the bottom of my feet, and I would know how tall I was. When we're comparing the height of 2 objects, we use words like taller and shorter. For example, I have these 2 ukuleles. One is taller than the other, and one is shorter than the other. Let's see how we can measure and compare these 2 ukuleles' height. So to measure the height and compare, we're going to first put them side by side and make sure that the ends are matching up, that they're even, just like we did with the 2 pieces of fabric. And then we're going to see which one is taller and which one is shorter. Remember, when we're measuring height, we measure top to bottom or bottom to top. So if I look, the top of this one goes higher than the top of this one. So this ukulele is taller than this ukulele, and this ukulele is shorter than this ukulele. You can see that they have 2 different heights. When we are measuring an object's capacity, that means we're measuring how much it can hold. Now, if I want to measure how much something can hold, I can use something called a measuring cup. But today, I'm going to show you how to measure and compare the capacity of 2 different objects using cups. When we're comparing the capacity of 2 different objects, we use words like greater and less. For example, here are 2 cups. This cup can hold more water than this cup. So this cup has a greater capacity than this little cup. And this little cup has less capacity than this big cup. Greater capacity, less capacity. When we are measuring how much an object weighs, that means we're measuring the heaviness of an object. So for example, if I had two rocks, the one that is harder to hold is the heavier rock, and that means it weighs more. When we are comparing the weight of two objects, we use words like more and less. For example, here I have a water bottle and a big jug of sweet tea. This water bottle weighs less than the jug of sweet tea, and I know because it's easy to hold. I can easily pick it up. I don't have to use a lot of muscle strength to carry it. This weighs less than this sweet tea jug. But this sweet tea jug, is super heavy. And so it weighs more than the water bottle. I have to use a lot of arm strength to carry this sweet tea. So this jug of sweet tea weighs more than the water bottle. Today we learned about how to measure and compare objects by their measurable attributes, and that means that we're measuring objects by length, by height, by capacity, and by weight. Go around your house and try to measure and compare different objects. See which objects are longer than other objects. Maybe somebody in your family is taller or shorter than you are. Who weighs more? What cups have greater capacity than other cups? I hope you have fun exploring this objective this week. Happy learning and have a great week.